All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program, Johnny Cuba. European roots with that Caribbean soul, a refreshing German lager in a can. Pick up a six-pack of Johnny Cuba. That's how you can enjoy tonight. Game 4, Panthers, Rangers. Make sure you always drink responsibly. And, of course, don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. Darren Pang joining us here ahead of Game 4. You are catching them between the glass, between the benches, NHL on TNT. Appreciate you hanging out with us here, Panger. First up, I got, what is it like? Now, look, you've been doing it for years, of course, but do you ever get used to being in between the benches, pucks flying at you? I remember there was one play, the sticks are flying at you because there was a little scrum in front of you. Do you ever get used to it?
It's good to be on the show and looking forward to the game tonight. You know what? It's exhilarating down there, to be honest with you. I try to tell anybody that's new that's down there that it's been a place that is honored now. It's special to be down there, and I think we've got to treat it as such, because the one thing that I get out of it is that it's still the player's domain down there, and there's sometimes. If I know a player on one side, really likes to chirp at the other bench, and I'm in between, and it's between breaks or whatever, I'll actually see who's there and step back a little bit, to give them their space a little bit. Like, let's just say it's Ryan Lomberg's, to my left, like the Boston series, in Boston, and maybe it's a Patty Maroon to the right, and I know they want to go at it a little bit. Well, I don't want to be right in the middle because they can't see each other, even though I'm a little guy. So you kind of take a step back and you let the boys go at it a little bit, and then that's what gets the game. That's what's special about our game, is that is the angst between players, or players just trying to stir the pot a little bit, or try to get in the other guy's kitchen a little bit, and I enjoy that part of it. But I always you just try to remember that you got to let the boys play their game as well, and then try to let the fans know what's happening without giving away too many details, because again, that's their cherished spot as well, being on the bench and chirping at the other guy. So I don't want to throw them under the bus, but you want to share it with the fans,
Right, that part I wonder about, because look, you're a reporter in this spot. So where do you draw the line on letting everyone know exactly what you're seeing and hearing?
Well, I think, I think I'm more of and I don't mean to. I'm more of a game analyst in there, like, what I mean? Like, I know TNT doesn't do it that way. If you're not a game analyst, you're not between the benches, and in fact, Jackie Redmond's asked me that a few times, because there's a place in Dallas where it's a hard place for the analyst to be, right there by the backup goalie of the Dallas Stars. And Brian Boucher, in fact, doesn't like going in that spot. And Jackie Redmond asked me about my thoughts of her going there and doing her reports from there. And I this is just my opinion, but I say no. I think that's for a game analyst, and so ESPN, they'll use, they might use Leah Hextall in one of the series sometimes down below, and she's reporting. Now there's a fine line now. Like, are you reporting on everything that's being said, or are you analyzing the game? And I think that spot was always meant for an analyst down there. One up, one down. I think TSN was one of the first to do one up, one down. And then obviously NBC went on board with that as well. And now everybody's doing it, including local shows. But so getting back to my point, I wouldn't want to report on everything that's said down there because, again, they won't do it again then. Like, if we start saying everything that they say, then they're not going to say anything. And we're going to have no angst and no emotion and no passion between the bench. And I think it's important to have that. So I don't want it so that, especially in that second period when they're crossing over, and the line changes can get really, really desperate is the way to say it, because you're trying to get off the ice on a good line change, especially if you're the D. The other team's coming across, you're bumping into each other. A lot of times they'll give you a little shove and keep you off the ice just for that extra split second or two. And maybe they get a chance to get the puck and go the other way, or what have you. So I think there's a lot of those times where you just stay out of the way. You just analyze the game, and you tell the people why is that second period change so tough, Zaz? Why is it that they got in trouble? Is it because the the forward held onto the puck too long. It was because they moved the puck in the wrong area where the 2D were trying to get a chance. So I mean I think that's analyzing the game and being an analyst, and that's the fun part of being down there. So yeah, you always keep your hands up like that because sticks, guys get hit now and they don't tuck their shoulders in when they get hit. They kind of come across with their stick, so you might get the tip of the blade or the heel of the stick. And I cracked a few watches along the way, but all in all, it's been pretty good. Haven't, knock on wood, actually. I know my season's done now, but knock on wood, I haven't had anything major happen to me in there.
You'll have to excuse me for not remembering because it was 9 games ago, 8 games ago at this point. Were you in between the benches for Tkachuk and Pasternak?
No, that was in. That was in Florida, for the fight. You mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was not in for that one. I was between the benches for the Bennett hit on Marchand, and a lot of people actually people have asked a lot of questions about that, and I actually explained to Sam and I explained to I did not to Marchand, but because I never got a chance to talk to him because he was so secretively coming back to the lineup, but. I saw the majority of that, but also I was watching, and I have a camera behind me that got blocked out exactly by the stanchion. Like exactly at the point that the contact was made with the right hand of Bennett underneath and caught Marchand, that was in the way. I was watching, Sam Bennett was about to ice the puck. So he never got the red line. I was actually explaining that to him. I said, I was watching the puck go that way to see if it was ice. And then as I looked back this way, I saw pop. And I remember just saying, oh boy, Marchand just got popped by Bennett. And I said, I think it was his glove. And that's as much as I could really see on my angle. And then obviously the production trucks have a melt, and they found a reverse angle that showed what everybody saw just prior to the game, and that was a higher angle, and that was boy, you could you guys saw it, you could see it quite clearly, but that was a good series to be in. I'll be honest with you, there was a lot going on. Every time you turned around, there was a goalie interference call. Wasn't there a goalie interference call? There was a play where Lauko went into the goaltender Lauko went into Bobrovsky, but Ekblad was kind of pushing him in. One guy got a call, one guy. So we were in the middle of a real good, interesting, intense conversation of a game. So I do enjoy that part of it. It keeps you on your toes. You got to be real sharp in there because your eyes have got to be on it, and then you've got to have the confidence to say what you got to say. And some teams don't like it, and some teams do like it. It does, you know.
I feel like we're in that place now with this series going into game 4 tonight, and where the teams don't like each other now. Like, I was surprised in game 1. I think the first scrum after the whistle came in like the middle of the third period. It's like, wow, this has been a very clean game. I feel like we're now at the point where it's going to start to get ugly. And so let's talk about what happened with Jacob Trouba last game. Look, I was on ESPN at the time. I was doing radio, so I had the game on mute on my television here. So I didn't get to hear all the thoughts and opinions about the Trouba hit and what took place. But I'm watching that. I'm like, wow, if I were to put together film of what a major penalty looks like, that would probably be on the tape. What was your thought there? What happened there?
I think a lot of things happen in that type of play. And when you slow it down to super slow-mo, which isn't really fair to the referees and everybody else, but and even the fans and their opinions, but you're obviously seeing a player, lunge out with either the forearm, elbow coming out. I guess the proper way to say it is, Jacob Trouba is, trying to get a piece of him, and it looks worse because of the angles and the falling and the leaning out, because it's not a typical hockey play. It's not something that we see every day. You'd see a player having balance and leaning into him, because Jacob Trouba is known as he's known as an excellent hitter. He's probably one of the best stand-up, close gaps, open ice hitter in the league. And so that makes him a dangerous player, because if you got to keep your head up around him. That one didn't look great. It didn't pass the eyeball test for a lot of reasons, and it's because it was that motion of coming up like that. So I think the referees are starting to get not the hang of this, but they want to get it right. So you call a major, And once you call a major, then you can go back. So, I mean, there's a lot of details go into these kind of hits. And I'm not one to just sit back and say that, hey, the guys in Toronto, there's 10 guys sitting in an office with huge monitors and super slow-mo. Before it even gets to the referees going to the penalty box, these guys have already watched it, for probably 4 minutes, and they've rewound it. They've looked at it. So they're ahead of the game when they're looking at it. So if their opinion was that the actions, weren't as bad as what they looked, and they figure out that there's a balance problem or falling forward or another player's going down lower, who might argue with that? But I could see that if I had skin in the game, you're working for, let's say I was with the Florida Panthers and I'm watching that kind of play, and it happened 3 times in the series, and you're seeing the same play happen. Then you're kind of like, whoa, okay, what's going on? Like, it's just like Bob. Like, for every time there's goalie interference on Bob, the 2 times against Tampa Bay, Toronto's now looking at that a little bit closer. Is that really goalie interference? Is he dropping his stick at the same point every single time? Is he maybe selling it a little bit more than we would like? Because there's a lot of controversy on that. So you know what I mean. There's no matter where you look, there's going to be a magnifying glass, and there's going to be scrutiny on every single call and every situation, because you're seeing the same players over and over and over again. And so it becomes so repetitive. You get to see these players, and if the same player again is doing the same thing a lot, if the same player's embellishing a trip, and that's happening 5 times a game, the NHL's looking at it going, okay, boys, put a mark on that guy. Like, let's stop this, okay? Because we're going to be the ones looking bad at the end of the day. But again, I would have to think that Jacob Trouba's going to have to get the hands in a little bit tighter, and next time he makes a hit, even though it's a different situation than that hit, he's going to have to be tucked in, and everything's going to have to be for him. Obviously a cleaner look, but the same thing with Rempe. What Rempe early in the year, every time he went to hit somebody, he's a gangly guy, 6'8" or 6'9", and his hands go all over the place. And he personally told me, he goes, man, I got to get my hands tucked in, and I said, well, that's good, because if you want to play in this league and not go to the penalty box, you do have to get your hands tucked in. And so maybe that's the theme of this one here. Tuck in the old elbows, tuck in the hands, and just hit clean and hit with the shoulders.
I don't know if you saw the clip. It's grainy video from like the upper deck in Amerant Bank Arena, where after when the Rangers are jumping onto the ice to celebrate the winner, and a couple Panthers, I didn't even see who it was, because like I said, it's pretty grainy video. They stick checked Rempe. They were not happy with him. The game's over. Was that in response to the penalty that Rempe took? Like, is that what happened there, that they were angry about that?
Yeah, I mean, there could be a couple of other situations. He didn't play a whole lot after that. So, but yeah, I think it was Matthew. Whoever posted it, circled it, and put their names in it. So,
Okay.
and so I think they just ended the game, went over there to make sure that they said something to him, and it wasn't to me, it wasn't a major deal. That kind of stuff happens more than you think after a game, and so it could be a whack in the ankle, or it could be a whack in the pants, or something to get their attention on it. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is I thought the Panthers played a heck of a game. And I thought they did everything technically. I thought structurally. I thought both teams played a real good game. But Florida was a better hockey team. They had more ozone pressure. They had better scoring chances. But that's what I love about hockey. We have a common denominator, and it's called the goalie. And how many times have we seen it? Man, I remember going back to the 1996 final that I was working at for ESPN and ABC, and John Van Beesbroek, one of the sole reasons why the Panthers were even in that final. And that's what makes the game great. And you can feel it when your goalie's on a roll. So what Matthew Tkachuk and the Panthers are going to have to focus on is they're going to have to outwork the goalie. And it's a common saying. How do you outwork him? Anything on the crease, anything around his feet. You have to have a quick stick to make sure that he can't get up any loose rebounds, anything around there, and basically outbattle the goaltender, who's battling and in a pretty good rhythm right now for the New York Rangers. So
I feel really good.
Been a good series. Been a good series.
Yeah. Oh,
I've enjoyed it.
I thought Game 3 was a fantastic game, even though, I mean, look, I was bummed at the end. I feel really good about the Panthers tonight, because I think they played great this series. And you know what? I've referenced this on the show a few times over the last week, where I thought you made an excellent point when you were in between the benches in Game 4 last round. The Panthers are down 2-0 at the Bruins. The crowd's going crazy. And you're talking about how the Bruins bench, they're chirping, they're excited, they're into it. The Panther bench, they're the exact same as they've always been. It's business-like. They don't get phased. And of course, the Panthers came back. They won the game 3-2. I thought it was an excellent point you made there for everybody. And that's how I feel going into tonight. This team, they're even keeled. They don't get shook, you know?
You are exactly right. I think that's our job between the benches is tell the people, where the bench is, because I also did Game 7 last year in Boston. The Panthers win in Game 7. And there was a couple of points in the game where I could feel things change confidence-wise. In one play in particular, a couple of Bruins were they're going at it about a play that happened on the ice. And it was a second period. It was second period because the Bruins were to my right. And Brandon Montour identified that, and he saw that. And he went right over to their bench, and he basically was giving it to the Bruins players for getting on each other. And I just remember thinking to myself, what a great pickup that was by Brandon Montour, number one, because he's watching, he's listening, and and the D are on that side, so they're closest to me for that line change, and Bobrovsky was over to my right, and it was just one of those little things in the game where I saw not a confidence change because of that moment of Brandon Montour, but I saw a team kind of getting frustrated. The fans were they weren't booing yet, but they were getting frustrated. There was no energy in the crowd, and Boston's bench was very, very quiet. And at that point, I could see it, and I shared that information about the Florida Panther bench. Well, the same thing in that series again in Game 4. Florida's bench has always been very even keeled, very much the same. And whether they're up or whether they're down, there's not a hush on their bench. It's actually very good. It's a very well organized bench, and the players take a lot of ownership and accountability on that bench. So when you mention that point, because they're on the road as well, it's a quiet, it can get quiet and you can hear them, but Boston's bench and their crowd, because they haven't won big games at home, going back to 2000, I'll go back to the years. I think it was 2013 against Chicago in the final. Hawks scored 2 late goals, and it was a devastating loss for the Bruins. Chicago went on to win the cup. Then in 19 at home, Game 7, they lost to St. Louis, and then they lost last year in Game 7. So those are important moments. Now they did win a huge one against the Toronto Maple Leafs on that great Pastrnak goal, but you go to it. So that's what I'm watching. Are they getting tentative? Are they getting nervous? Is the crowd feeding off their nervousness? Because as a player, you can feel all of what I just said. And so that's very interesting. But Florida doesn't change. And I think that's why they're a real good team, no matter what the score is. They don't go away. They just keep going and coming at you. And that's why they win a lot of games when they're trailing, even if it's late in a hockey game. They manage that emotions, and they manage that energy really, really well. They're an impressive team to watch for sure. And I wish last year, to be quite honest with you, that Matthew Tkachuk didn't get hurt, because I think we would have seen a much different Stanley Cup final than really it wasn't as competitive as we all anticipated it was going to be last year.
Yeah. One more for you here, Panger. We're all super excited about the game tonight. I don't know that the Panthers need to change anything. I think they played so great. Do they need to change anything? I mean, I know you already mentioned, get in front of Shesterkin, maybe give him some problems right in front of the crease there, make things difficult for him. Is there anything they need to change going into tonight?
Actually, no. Unless there's something technical that Paul comes up with, which the coaching staff, they're excellent. They do a great job of getting themselves prepared. But I think if you just watch it afterwards, and I'm at my lake house in Michigan, and I've got a bunch of people come by. We watch the game, and you're not paying full attention. So the next morning, I'll just watch it again, little parts of the game, and I'll say there's only one area that cost them the hockey game. I don't know if you guys broke it down at all, but the one area wasn't anything structurally. It wasn't anything quality chances. It wasn't their passing. It wasn't their. It was all good. Bob froze a puck that was an almost icing play, and he ends up freezing it. It ends up getting a face-off in their own zone. That face-off ended up being lost, and the puck ended up being in the net. And so it's something as simple as that. And I don't know if you go back on it, you'll see that if it's an icing play and the goalie, it's on net, so the goalie covers it, then the home team can't change their players. So I went back to look at it. It wasn't icing, but it was really close to the point where I think Barkov and the Panthers thought that it was. So did they have to stay on the ice or could they get a change? So there was a little delay. There's a little milling about. And then Barkov went off for a change and Rodriguez came on the ice. So a lefty versus a righty taking the face-off, a lost face-off, puck ends up going in the net. So is there one thing I could say? Bob, play the puck. Don't cover it up if you can play the puck, because those face-offs in your own zone can become incredibly important and sometimes devastating. And that whole sequence was because of that.
That's so cool what you just said there. Like, there's so many little things about the game that maybe everybody doesn't notice that I love hearing about. Like, my son and I, we were at Game 5 against Tampa in the first round where the Panthers closed it out, and the Panthers got a shorthanded goal because, and I'm explaining to him after the goal, do you understand why this just happened? The Lightning, they were offside. So, the Lightning iced the puck, which is so rare on a power play. So the Panthers got this face-off in the Lightning zone. They won the face-off, and then we scored off the clean face-off win. All of that happened because of one error on the other side by the Lightning. Like, little things like that I love about the game.
That you're exactly right. The little things. And then, and the other thing was, you can see Bob right away. I mean, he's pointing to the glove. So I know they reviewed it, but if that puck goes off of the glove in front of the net, then it's I mean, there are situations where it is a goal.
Intentional?
Right. A puck deflected off the glove. It's a real fine, minute line here. I've seen games where a puck, if a player makes the motion like that, it looks like he's using his hand or his glove to punch it in the net. Now, he might not be meaning to. Maybe he's meaning to get it right off the shaft of the stick right there. But right away, Bob was pointing to the glove. And you could see that it went off the shaft and then maybe the finger and then into the net. But it was the right call made. But I could see why Bob was thinking that it was punched by the glove, which I think it would be no goal if it went cleanly off his glove just because of the motion that was made at that point. But that would have been that's something else. The little things too that the goalie sees that other guys don't see. Nobody else saw it. Nobody else went to the referee and pointed to the glove except for him. So. But
Darren, excellent job. Of course, he gets to enjoy the rest of the postseason like us. His duties are done with for the season. NHL on TNT. Enjoy the game tonight. I think we got a long series, and hopefully hopefully you enjoy it just as much as hopefully we enjoy it. Darren, thanks so much for your time. I always appreciate it.
My pleasure, Zaz. Take care and enjoy the game tonight. See ya.